How are you? I'll show you how to clean a shotgun. I'll show you how to clean a double barrel, break action shotgun and a semi-automatic shotgun, which is the exact same principle for the straight pull or the button release shotgun or lever release. So we'll make sure that the firearm is clear. Yep, nothing in the chamber. We'll take the four ends off, barrels off, and the receiver's off. So I'll clean the receiver for you first. I'll wipe away all the old grease from the receiver. Wipe it off. I'll use contact cleaner. Clean where the firing pin holes are. Make sure there's no grease or oil anywhere near the firing pins, and blow off all the old dirt from the receiver. Ready to be oiled and re-greased once put back together. So I'll leave it to the side here to dry now. The fore end I'll wipe away, especially the old grease here. Wipe away the old grease on the face of the fore end and clean off with a bit of contact cleaner, and I'll leave that to dry. With the barrels, there's a lot of grease here from the workings of the gun and the extractors being used all the time. So what I'll do is I'll wipe away all this grease and clean it with contact cleaner. So I'll use some contact cleaner, start scrubbing, get the chemical all over it, let it clean it out. Lid back on that. Wipe away the heavy excess dirt and grease and clean it off with contact cleaner. And the front of there, clean that off and clean the other side. Give it a good clean. Your choke tubes, it is good to clean them about, with me I do it about every month because of the amount of shooting that I do. But if you're somebody that shoots a gun here or there, I'd just do it when you've done a lot of shooting or annually. Just to make sure, because as the powder's going up the bore, you can get powder burning up into the threads and it builds up like cement. And if you never clean them, you'll never get your chokes out. So it's always good to make sure that your choke tubes are clean. So put your choke tool in and remove the chokes from the barrel. So you remove the choke out like that. And then we're going to clean it again with the cleaner. Clean it all away. This one's pretty clean. Clean the threads. It's the thread is the main build-up of the choke tube where it gets dirty. Now on the inside, you get quite a big build-up on these. You get quite a big build-up of plastic from the wads going up. I use a coarse brush like this with a bit of the cleaner on it and just push it through. Because it's very harsh, I just push it through like that, just a few times, backwards and forwards. You can hear it scratching it, it's taking it out. And then when I look up there, I can see I've removed all the wad plastic fouling from the choke. Give it a clean, spray it off with a contact cleaner. Choke's clean, ready to be put back in. And where the choke thread is in the bore, again I put the cleaner in with the brush. That's why these brushes are good, so they fit in the barrel like that. You can get it in there, clean the threads out. Your threads have to be clean. This one's pretty good. And then just spray out the threads with the contact cleaner. Get them nice and clean. Now, I'll re-put the choke in because I like to clean the bores with the choke in. So I'll put the choke in, but when I put the choke back in, give it a good coat of oil. Be quite heavy with the oil on the thread. Right? Put gun oil on the thread, wipe it over the whole choke so it's nice and oily. You can even, if you want, put a bit of oil in the thread in the bore as well, if you want to make sure you've definitely got it fully covered with oil. And then put your new clean choke back into the bore. Make sure your thread starts nicely. If it doesn't go easy, it's not right. Put your choke tool in and then tighten the choke up like that. Then pull your chokes up. I like to go just a bit past finger tight. That's all you do. Don't over tighten them, otherwise they're hard to get out. So that's the choke put in, back into the firearm and cleaned. Now I'll clean the bore. This is what a dirty barrel looks like. Once we put the cleaner up it and wipe it all out, it'll be sparkling clean again. To clean out the bore, I run a rag up it first to take away all the heavy powder fouling. So just rag up and I feel with my hand till it just pokes out and then back again like that. Same for the other bore. Just take out that heavy powder and back again like that. Now we'll get the cleaner up there. Start taking out all the old powder. What I use a bit of steel wool. Steel wool works really good on a rod, and I just wrap it round like that, tightly, and I dunk it in the cleaner. So I use a bit of the cleaner, give it a nice coat of cleaner, and I run it up the bore. Now, I hold my hand up here to feel when the rod's going to touch, so I know how far, and I put my hand here as a gauge, so I know how far to push so it doesn't come out, because it's hard to pull it back again. So I'll go up and back, and I don't have to go right up high in the chokes, because I've already cleaned the choke. But the most dirtiest part here is the front of your chamber, where the explosion happened. It builds up here. So you want to come back here and rub a few times there like that. Give it a good rub. Better not push over my cleaner. Rub it there, rub back a few times all the way up to the end, the whole barrel. Same for the bottom. I'll get a bit more cleaner for the bottom. Here, give it a good rub here at the back, backwards and forwards, right at the start of the bore where the forcing comb is, and go all the way up and run up and backwards and forwards up the barrel a few times. You notice I'm putting a lot more care into the bottom barrel, because the bottom barrel always does more work on an over and under, because we use the bottom barrel first. So now that I've taken the cleaner out, I'll use my dirty rag again, wipe out the excess cleaner from the bore, like that, and then I'll put a clean rag on the rod to clean out the bore. So I'll take the old rag off. Now I'll put on a nice clean rag. I'll make sure. The bore should be nice and clean now. The rag will have a little bit of dirt on it. It always does. Because I'll put the cleaner up there. Then pull back. And that bore now should be clean and ready for oiling from after putting that rag up there. Nice and clean. That's how your barrel should look after cleaning it. As you can see, it wasn't much effort with the cleaner and steel wool to get them like that after you put the rag up it. If I was using the shotgun like I do weekly, I would not worry about putting an oily mop up this shotgun now, because the cleaner has automatic transmission fluid in it, which is oil, and it leaves a nice oily, just a very light oily film in the bore, which is perfectly fine, not causing a barrel obstruction to shoot next time. But if I was putting the firearm away for a long period of time, I would put oil up the bore. So I'd use an oily mop like this, put the oily mop on, and then I'd put a good coat of oil on it, a couple of runs of oil just like that on the mop, and then I'd push the mop up the barrel, but there's a way you've got to do this so you get good coverage. I'd push the mop all the way up the end till it stops. Now, as I'm twisting the rod back, right, as I'm twisting it back, I would turn it like this. As I'm turning it like that, it's covering the whole bore. It's putting a good spiral effect of oil in the bore. This is what I do for long storage. And then I go wide and around here because your chamber's bigger, just to make sure everything's covered. And then the same again for the bottom barrel. Pull back and twist like this. As you're twisting it out like that, there'll be a nice film of oil. Make sure the chamber's done. And that's oiled. So when you look up the bore, you'll notice there'll be a spiraling effect of oil in the barrel. That barrel is well oiled. You could leave that for 4 or 5 years, wouldn't rust at all. But make sure that you would use the rag and wipe the oil out before you shoot it next time, because the oil will build up with quite a lot of dust, which could cause a barrel obstruction. So make sure you clear it out. That is how you clean a shotgun's bore. I like to use a little bit of gun oil because this is all dry now from the contact cleaner. A couple of drops of oil here on the extractors, and then push them. Work the oil in. See how I'm working the oil in? Nice and lubricated. You do this and your shotgun will last you for years. Oils into the extractors. I'll do it the other side. Good coat of oil, work the oil in. Wipe away the heavy residue of oil now, as I've got the oil in there. Now, on these moving parts, I use a little bit of automotive grease. Not a lot, but just a bit. Here, where it pivots, and just on the extractors, just a bit of grease. You do this and the shotgun will last for a long time. Moving metal parts like lubrication. This is why we have to remove all the old grease, because this grease will attract dirt. So after shooting, you clean it all off and reapply the grease again. Now when you're doing a big clean, you can actually pull these extractors out and clean them properly, and then clean everything, wipe it out and put them all back together. But if you keep doing this regularly, they'll always be clean. So that's the barrel done. Now, with the receiver, we want to put a bit of oil on the moving parts here. So I'll put a bit of oil on the bottom there and rub it in. Slight drop of oil on the lever release. Right, work it in. And I'll put just a very light smear of grease on the pins where it pivots. Anywhere where it pivots, just put a little smear of grease like that. That's all you have to do, and absolutely no oil at all. So I'll just use the oily rag that's very lightly coated and just very lightly, just a light wipe. That's it, because I'd already blown the contact cleaner in the firing pin holes. You do not want to get oil in the firing pins. So that's ready to go back together. And I've wiped that with an oily rag on the inside. And the grease is on the pivots here. So now we'll put the shotgun back together. But one thing I forgot to do before we put it back together. Because I'd opened the receiver before, the firing pins were cocked from the fore-end going back. So I use a $1 coin and hold it against the firing pin and pull the trigger. That's the first one. Now, if your firearm, just like this one, has inertia system inside where it needs recoil to recock the next trigger, it's not mechanical, I always pull the safety catch on and then forward again, and that'll re-engage without having to cap the back of your stock like I see a lot of people doing. You can just do that and it recocks the firing pin. So now it's hit on the nice soft coin. Both the firing pins are let down, the hammer springs are loose. Put the firearm back together like that. And now, as I'm putting it back together, my oily rag, I'll wipe everywhere where I was touching, like that. Smear a slight little bit of grease on the catch that holds the fore end on. Get my fore end now. Oily rag there. Oily rag on all the metal parts. Very important here. This is the part that does the most work. As you're opening the action, opening and closing, that metal surface is wearing continuously on here. This is the part on a shotgun break action that wears the most. So you put a smear of grease on the fore end, always. Lubrication on that fore end, and your gun action will stay a lot tighter for a longer time. Put the fore end back in, click it in, wipe the shotgun down like I did with the rifle before on all the metal parts wherever I've touched. And then wipe the barrel. So that's it. That's the break action shotgun clean. There is many ways to clean shotguns. You'll probably find your own ways. It may be quicker or a bit longer than what I've done. But that's probably the most easiest way that I know to do it properly. I'll now make part 2 of the video, which will cover the semi-automatic shotgun or the straight pull. Thank you.